She thought she married into a perfect life, a billionaire husband, a secure mansion, a future most people dream of. But inside that house was a room she was never supposed to find. Perfection can be the most dangerous disguise, because behind the polished images and carefully controlled smiles, Emily Carter was living a reality she couldn't explain, without sounding like she was losing her mind. And what she discovered later? It would make even the safest home feel like a trap. Emily Carter wasn't always part of that world. She was ordinary in the best way, grounded, thoughtful, cautious. Someone who had already been hurt before and promised herself she would never ignore red flags again. But what if the red flags don't look like danger at all? What if they look like love? Then she met Daniel Hayes, a man who didn't just enter her life, he understood it, or at least, that's what it felt like at first. Daniel was precise, intentional, controlled. He listened in a way that made Emily feel seen, and that's where everything began to shift, because the right attention at the wrong time can feel exactly like safety. Daniel Hayes was everything people admire, a self-made billionaire, a respected CEO, a man who spoke about leadership and legacy like they were moral responsibilities. But here's what no one tells you about men like Daniel. Power doesn't always show itself in public. From the outside, there was no reason to question him. But behind the scenes, there were patterns, employees who left without explanation, agreements no one fully understood, control that extended beyond business, and if Emily had seen that earlier, would anything have changed? They met at a charity event. Emily wasn't trying to stand out, and that's exactly why Daniel noticed her. Because sometimes, the people who don't seek attention become the easiest to study. Their connection felt immediate, not overwhelming, but intentional, carefully paced, and that's what made it dangerous. Within weeks, Emily was introduced to a world very few people ever see. Private dinners, weekend escapes, conversations that sounded like the future was already decided. And before she had time to question it, she was already inside it. When he proposed, it didn't feel rushed, it felt certain. And certainty can be the most convincing illusion of all. The wedding was everything people expected. Elegant, expensive, perfect. But here's the unsettling truth. The most controlled environments often look the most beautiful. For a while, everything aligned with that image, until small things started to shift. And those small things? They were easy to ignore at first. Daniel suggested certain friends weren't good for her, not as control, but as concern. And that's how it starts, not with force, but with influence. Emily began to distance herself, slowly, quietly, almost without noticing, and by the time she realized it, her world had already started to shrink. Then came her time, her schedule, her priorities, always guided, never forced, and that's what made it so hard to question, because nothing felt wrong until everything did. The house itself was built for security, cameras, systems, protocols. At first, it made sense, but then something changed. Because the same systems meant to protect her started to feel like they were watching her. Moments where Daniel knew things she never told him, details he couldn't have known, and the more she thought about it, the less it felt like coincidence. So she asked him, and his response? Calm, measured, reassuring, so reassuring. She started doubting herself instead. And that's when the real trap closed, because once you stop trusting your own thoughts, you start relying on someone else's version of reality. By the time Emily realized something was truly wrong, she was already too far inside it. But what she discovered next, that's what changed everything. It started with something small, a space in the house that didn't make sense, a door that shouldn't have been there. And curiosity can be dangerous in the wrong place. When she finally got inside, nothing could have prepared her for what she found. Screens, dozens of them, footage, angles, rooms, every part of her life, recorded. Not just security, not just protection, observation, analysis, control. And in that moment, everything she had been feeling suddenly made sense. She wasn't being protected, she was being studied. Think about that for a second. What does it mean to live with someone who doesn't just watch you, but studies you? That's when Emily made a decision. She had to leave. But leaving wasn't simple, not in a house designed to see everything. So she did the only thing she could. She started planning. Quietly, carefully. Every move had to look normal. Every action had to blend in. Because if he noticed, everything would collapse. She studied patterns, his routines, the staff, the timing, and most importantly, the moments when she wasn't being watched, or at least, when she hoped she wasn't. But here's the problem. What if she was wrong? What if he had already seen everything? The night everything changed didn't come with a warning. It came quietly, like every other night. But something was different. Daniel wasn't distant. He was focused, watching her, more closely than ever. Then the questions started. Casual at first, then repeated, then sharper. And suddenly, it wasn't a conversation anymore. It was a test. He wasn't asking what she did. He was watching how she answered. The tension built fast, too fast. Months of silence collapsed into minutes. And then, everything broke. What happened next depends on who you ask. Some say she tried to leave, others say he stopped her. Some say it turned physical, others say it never got that far. But one thing is certain. Something happened in that moment that couldn't be undone. And then came the part that still doesn't make sense. 6 hours. No calls, no alarms, no outside contact. 6 hours where anything could have happened. And that's what makes this case so disturbing. Because in 6 hours, a story can be rewritten. By the time authorities arrived, the scene was wrong. Too calm, too controlled, too prepared. Daniel Hayes was composed, not shaken, not panicked. And that alone raised questions. Because in situations like this, emotion tells a story, and his silence told a different one. Then investigators found something else. Missing footage. Not completely gone, but interrupted, edited. And that changed everything. Because now the question wasn't just what happened, but what was being hidden. And then there was Emily. Or rather, the absence of her. She was gone. No clear trail, no confirmed outcome. Just questions. But as investigators dug deeper, they found something unexpected. Emily had been documenting everything. Notes, records, patterns. She wasn't just reacting, she was preparing. Preparing for what? That's where the story begins to split. Because now, there were two possibilities. Was she trying to expose him? Or was she planning something of her own? And just when it seemed like things couldn't get more complicated, they did. Because there were signs of someone else. Access logs that didn't match, movements that didn't align, data that didn't belong. A third presence, unconfirmed, but impossible to ignore. And now the story wasn't just about a marriage, it was about something bigger, something layered, something no one fully understood. In the end, there was no clean answer. No resolution, no certainty. Daniel Hayes walked free. Not because he was proven innocent, but because nothing could be proven at all. And Emily Carter? She was never found. Some believe she didn't survive. Others believe she escaped. That she planned everything. That she disappeared on her own terms. And if that's true, then the question changes completely. Because maybe she wasn't just the victim. Maybe she was the only one who understood the game and chose to leave it. But here's what stays with you. If you had everything, money, power, a perfect life, but slowly started losing your ability to trust your own mind, would you even realize it in time? Or would you stay until it was too late? Because in the end, the most dangerous prisons don't have walls. They exist in perception, control, silence. And once you're inside, you don't know what's real anymore. So now the question is yours. What really happened that night? Was Emily Carter a victim? Or something more? And Daniel Hayes? Was he in control? Or reacting to something he never expected? Because the truth was never fully uncovered. And maybe it never will be. If this story kept you on edge, don't let it end here. Subscribe now for more gripping, real-life inspired mysteries where power, secrets, and hidden truths collide. Join the community and be the first to uncover stories that challenge everything you think you know about people, relationships, and reality itself. And before you go, tell us in the comments. Do you believe Emily Carter was a victim of circumstance, or is there more to her story than meets the eye?